Hello, this is J.N.S. and today I want to talk to my people about how to tell the difference between controlled opposition and people who are actually really about their work for the people. Unfortunately, I've just been very disturbed by the amount of infiltration in various segments of Black American movements, or even efforts to gain liberation, restitution, or even just self-autonomy. And there are ways in which, I've just been noticing, these actors, who played a role of being a revolutionary or trying to, cause disruption. But what this video is going to be about is more so the actor role of a revolutionary as controlled opposition. And really, some of these people are just gatekeepers to the system, or they act as people who control the fire of the Black American. So they want to control the fire of the Black American. And this video is going to be just for Black Americans, because I don't know all the geopolitics in Africa, so I'm not able to adequately speak on how controlled opposition will look like in Africa. But I know from living in America what it looks like. So if you're from the diaspora, you're more than welcome to listen to this video. Just know it's going to be very American based, solely for Black Americans. So what we see is these efforts to control the fire of the Black American and to control the narrative of the Black American, to divert your attention from things that will actually free you, from things that are actually productive, things that you need. We see these efforts with certain actors who will be put in place to kind of coax the line, to kind of low-key keep the status quo. And it's so subtle and so clever that most times Black Americans don't realize it until it's too late, like 50 years later, 100 years later, and you're like, oh shit, that person was really a pawn, or that person really didn't, help us out. But they have a profile of the type of leaders the Black American community will follow. So for one, they do that by coming up with a profile, and then it's a rinse and repeat situation with the type of people that they send. The people that get chosen for those positions, they usually have a history and run-ins with the law. And in those cases, they'll hold something over those individuals' head in exchange for a reduced sentence or no sentence if you work for them. And once you make those deals with the devil, it's done. You really cannot go back. You really have to toe the line and do what they tell you to do. So sometimes good people get caught up in a very, very devilish system, and a very unfortunate, precarious situation where it's like, you do this or you go to jail, or we'll release this information on you. So oftentimes that's how people get in those positions to even be controlled opposition. And it starts with that. Now, just because someone goes to jail does not make them, controlled opposition. That is not what I'm saying. That would be silly, But if you start to just look at who pops up as leaders in our community, you start to realize that they have a checkered past. Like, if you really look at them, like, why do every Black leader or everybody in the conscious community or whatever, why everybody got a fucking record? So you mean to tell me there ain't no Black Americans that got the voice that never been to motherfucking jail? Y'all don't find that weird? they all had some type of case over their head that they miraculously beat. Motherfuckers supposed to get 20 years, 14 years and shit. And next thing they walking around, And I say this with a heavy heart, because the Black American community is under severe spiritual warfare. It goes deeper than just what we see in the physical realm. It's on multiple levels, But unfortunately, some of us become blinded by things that don't matter. We become blinded by the matrix. We become blinded by material things in the system. So a lot of times that blinds us from questioning the intentions of some of the Black liberation leaders or figures, or these people who just pop up and, they say, they're part of these movements. They started these movements. So you pretty much just keep time looping. You know, like, remember when Claude Anderson said, you've been marching for 150 years and still nothing has changed, you know? And he's the one that was trying to get you to understand the difference between a strategy and a technique in terms of movements and leadership. But nobody ever listens to him, which is unfortunate. Some people do, but you know, so it's pretty much a time looping, getting nowhere, because it's by design, and it's the control opposition puppets and the system that keeps that in place. So, you know, one way, you know, you want to be able to tell if a person is truly, you know, for the people, is to study the work of the actual revolutionaries. You do have a few writers that left a sitemap, regardless if they were over their head, regardless if they may have did some missteps, you know, they may have been a sacrifice, unfortunately. But they left a sitemap of what it means to truly be autonomous. So then you have someone like Fred Hampton. You know, you see what happened to him as soon as he came out. His energy marker was taken straight out. I believe his name was Carter Bunchy, or Raph Bunch. The guy from UCLA that was part of the Black Panther parties, that's the role with Elaine Brown. Study his work. You know, if you study Malcolm X, like, that's one, or even Thomas Sankara, you know, and I'm sure there's more than I'm missing, so I'm sorry about that. And then you got to figure, not everyone has to die or has to go out in a blaze of glory. Some people, you know, say like Francis Cress Wilson, they're for the people, that operate from the mode of being a teacher for the community. They're teachers, they're scholars that want to put ideas out there so that Black Americans can question things. You also want to follow that work as well. You want to study the work of people who are either Black American teachers, and they're teachers of Black American society. They're actual revolutionaries. They're thought leaders. They're the people that really try to throw a wrench in this matrix. And you know, you have people like, even like Nina Simone, you know, she's another good example. You have plenty of women and men who are concerned with the plight of Black people and want to subvert their subjugation and degradation ultimately. You know, it doesn't mean that you would have to have been killed necessarily, because when you have someone like Claude Anderson, who's been around for 50, 60 years, saying the same thing, and what happens is a lot of times they don't come after you if they know that the people are just so brainwashed that they're not listening and paying attention close enough anyways. Now, that's not to say that Black people don't honor or respect Claude Anderson, but they know that his work is a little bit ahead of its time, and so they don't go after him because they know niggas wasn't really listening anyways. I mean, there was a lot of stuff he used to say. Nobody was, you know, people would be like, oh, that's nice. They love his books. You know, like, oh, that's some good scholarship. And then they just go on, you know, never really implementing what he put in the books. So, you know, a lot of people left a blueprint, whether they're alive or dead. But we know the price of freedom, and we know the price that comes up with even standing up, the type of discrediting techniques that will be used against you, the type of character assassination, setting up lies. It can even get deeper into wave weapons, sonar wave weapons. All types. It can get kind of sinister. Then you have poisoning, where you can kind of make somebody go off the deep end, so you don't have to even kill them anymore. So then they can kind of discredit themselves, and that's usually the route that they're going now today. They're not going with the just kill the assassinations anymore, because that becomes too obvious. It's better to just the idea of Black Americans not understanding how deep, say, like gang stalking is, or like MK Ultra, or anything of those nature. Those weapons being used against credible people have not become like so apparent to Black Americans yet. So that is the route that they are going to try to get people off their square, you know, and then those individuals have to fight that. If they speak out against it, they sound crazy. So it's better to just kind of, you know, and there's many Black Americans who've been a victim of this, and I know personally because they have told me. And they don't really tell other people because it's like nobody's going to believe them anyways. They're going to think they're crazy, so it's not even worth it. So fast forward today in 2023, you really don't have any leaders, if you think about it, that is on the level of a Thomas Sankara or a Malcolm X. That's like damn near 50 years. That's like 60 years. Where are the men that are tantamount to them? Why is the last character we seen with that type of spirit was 50 years ago, with the exception of Fred Hampton or Ozone or Darren Sills or something? Do y'all ever, like, to me it's like, do y'all ever question that? Like, that to me is so suspicious. That is so fucking suspicious. I'm like, nah, something ain't right about that. Why is the last self-determination movement started 60 years ago with Elijah Muhammad? Whether you agree with him or whatnot, his organizing ability around the Nation of Islam has been stellar. You know, even a lot of people don't like Dr. York, but even his organizing ability around the Nawabian Nation. I'm not saying you have to agree with everything these people did or that they saints, because they not. They're absolutely not. But I'm talking about the blueprints, the autonomy that they practice, and was able to get that and they were able to scale that ultimately. Like that's commendable. But why don't you see that happening today? You know, that should be strange to you. That should open your eyes out. Like, is the standards for the leaders? You know, why are people raising $1 million from the community to build the school, but it's gonna take them 10 goddamn years to build it, and no one knows where the money went, and then it's the contract's fault, is this person's fault, is that person's fault? And I love that person. I absolutely, man, I remember when the state of Pennsylvania tried to hem that man up, and I was crying like a baby. I was like, oh my gosh, like, I know it's set. You know when somebody getting, ran through the ringer, and Black Americans are very much, again, they don't understand how nowadays it's different tactics that they use now in terms of COINTELPRO. Yes, there's the discreditation one where they can make you look crazy. The other one is just running you through the courts over very small little stuff to try to put in the bug that your credentials are not real. Stuff like that, like what they did with that guy who raised that $1 million for that school. We're still waiting on the school, and maybe it will come to fruition. I think he needs to get the right people in certain positions to kind of help that come to fruition. But it seems like there's a lot of symbolic gestures going on to kind of get Black Americans to sort of blow off steam against the government, when you really should be beyond even certain symbolic gestures. One of that, which would be marching. Again, Claude Anderson said, you've been marching for 150 years, you still haven't moved an inch. He said this. And that is something where, again, to me, I find it odd when that is offered as a solution or something to do, when it's just a tactic. It's just a technique. It's not strategy. And then it's like, we in 2023, we about to be a permanent, I think we already are a permanent underclass. We certainly are at the bottom of a caste system. Our situation was more urgent. We're a little bit past that. So to me, it's like either they just don't know that, or either this is just a tactic to blow off some steam. Like, okay, the Negroes are kind of acting up. They're questioning too much. They're getting a little frustrated. Let's get them mobilized so they can go march around somewhere. Then they get to blow off some steam. But shouldn't there be more movements like the Nation of Islam? And why aren't there any? So ask yourself that in 2023, and why do the leaders that's like getting these accusations of scamming Black Americans, whether it's in real estate with this, I think it's some Morrison guy, then the status correction, we know what Brother Polite, I mean, there was a whole Facebook page on him from 10 years ago. And I remember being around the conscious community at that time, 10 years ago, with a Facebook page dedicated to all these victims of Black America who were saying they got scammed, that their money was missing, that they never got any help, that we talking about people with thousands of dollars, like not just $200. There were people in there that just lost 500, $1,000, but there were people that lost $1,000, $7,000, $8,000 to saying, and they had evidence. They were showing emails and everything. Then this same person goes on to molest a baby girl that's like 14 years old. So it's like, to me it's like, where then he was in Hollywood praying to money and hanging around these white women. So it's like, I just don't understand, as a society, as a community, why would the standards for leadership just go that low? Just why is nobody calling that out? It's like, are y'all brainwashed? Do you think it's because it's a male, it's okay? Because if that was a black woman, her ass would have been on a cross by now. Pulling them type of moves like that, scamming to the tune of millions of dollars and scamming real estate and shit. Y'all would have had her up there. Y'all would have damn near called for her death. So what's up with this community? Seriously, ask yourself those questions. And you have just been dealing with people that it's not a coincidence that there is controlled opposition of all of your movements. Now, whether that be in the conscious community, whether that be the reparations movement, whether that be the liberation movement, you name it, you have infiltration. And sometimes, again, it's very subtle that you end up following charlatans for decades, never realizing you're not getting anywhere. And to be fair, it will never be one person that leads you to the promised land. This is about a consciousness that has to be molded and shifted, and new values in the culture that have to be implemented. It's never going to just be one person. There's never one Messiah. You have a lot of people, you have a savior complex, even when it comes not only just to white people, but even thinking that one person is going to lead you out of this. And that's why you haven't pulled your own research together on any grand scale to buy up all this land, to start to make your own autonomous systems. But it's not going to be one person. But the people you are following, they don't even have, today in 2023, they don't have any blueprints. They will not get you organized. They give you no information on how to self-govern or self-autonomy, because they're not allowed to, because they're controlled opposition. And since remember Move in 1985, that was bombed. Remember the Move, and they were an organization that was going for self-autonomy and growing your own food and whatnot. Look what happened to them. And then you see what happened to Nawabian Nation. Yeah, Dr. York was, I think he got he was doing some charm shit, but we saw what came of that as well. And we all know Move was bombed in 1985, but there has not really been no significant efforts to continue that work, to continue in that path. Regardless of the school of thought that it comes out of. And I'm not saying that there's no one doing this work, because there are actually. But the Black community refuses on a large scale to kind of back them or get behind them, because they're not being promoted by the power structure as a Black leader that you should follow, or they're not uplifted. So there are real revolutionaries in 2023 that would never be known, that will go unknown, because they are heavily shadow banned. They are surveillance, or they go through a lot. And it just is what it is. So I say that to say that you are going around in circles with no significant progress, because you yourself are afraid to get off of this matrix. And that this matrix timeline where you completely dominate in every corner that you look. Don't run the education system. Don't run the military. Don't run the food, the agriculture, the nanotechnology, the internet, the water system, the insurance companies. These are not your systems. You're merely born to these systems ran by other groups of people. It's been set in place through the efforts of centuries of imperialism and colonialism. They're not like our systems. Some of us partake in them, we work in them, whatever. But again, these are byproducts of what happened to our people during chattel slavery. So we get casted out of things systematically. It's still happening to this day. Now, maybe you are in denial of that, or don't like to think about it, or it's so painful, but you should be thinking about self-autonomy every day. You should be organizing every day, and the people who are leading you should be planning on how to get control of a parallel system in which you are in control of at least your food, your water, your clothing, your shelter. If you are not thinking of these things by now, then, at this point, it's kind of like, do you want to be liberated, or do you just want this system? So then you deserve it, because your soul has not evolved to a level where you're broken free of the psychological slavery. Even though you say every day you're aware of said white supremacy, of said psychological slavery, and how the brainwashing of Black people have taken place. If you're aware of the brainwashing, you're aware of the white supremacy, then you are obviously charged with coming up with parallel systems. And that is why so many Black Americans and Black people in general deny that it exists. They don't study it. They don't see. I come from a sociology background, so I had no choice but to know the intricacies of structures and how structures influence society and the social aspects of a person. I had no choice but to know that. Every day I wake up, I see systems, I see the matrix, I see it every single day, because I've been trained in certain pedagogies to see that. It's as simple as that. So the average person, I understand, is not a sociologist, so I don't project that my frame of reference onto them, so I get it. But also there are other ways to know that something is severely wrong, and it doesn't take you to be educated, or any schooling for that matter, to know that there is a caste system and we are being treated unfairly. Many people know that. Many people in the hood, many people throughout all socioeconomic status, they know that. Because if you know the problem, then you are charged with coming up with a solution. So we know the problem. So now we have to work on the solution. But back to the topic, I just want to tell you to be very careful of people who suggest you placate to this system. That can be by trying to get you to change the words that you use, that you came up with as Black people, like on a grassroots level, to quell real revolution. That is a gatekeeping tactic. Also be aware of people who get close to leaders who start their own grassroots movements, be it whether it's in reparations, whether it's for lineage groups, whether it's liberation movements, whether it's in militias, and then they end up fighting with the leaders and then sabotaging those grassroots leaders' movements and finding ways to discredit them. And when you see them labeling people who do real revolutionary work as like, these people did this, these people did that, but you see a pattern of them going to each. Like there's one guy, I would say he's been around, he was in the conscious community, he's jumped from every major grassroots movement, and even some of the activist movements, say for like in Ferguson. One of them was in Ferguson. Then one of them was in a militia group. Then one of them, and I keep seeing the same person, and I kind of want to say his name, but I don't know. It seems like every time somebody get around him, somebody end up dead. But this motherfucker, he just goes around. He's being in pictures with him and stuff. I've been studying this stuff for like 10 years now. 10 years. And I am telling you, every time he goes around a motherfucker, I'm like, damn, some drama's about to pop off. Somebody about to end up dead. The person, the target, is going to end up dead. And I've seen it every single time. It's happened in the conscious community. When he came around Sinetta and drama pops off. Then when he went to Ferguson, drama popped off. Somebody ended up dead. Literally 3 days after they got out there. Then when he went to the militia group, somebody got arrested. Less than 3 days, somebody was arrested. And I'm like, And he's still around, but I'm like, something like that. I'm like, if I see that motherfucker try to come around me or come around the reparations movement, I'm sounding the motherfucking alarm. I'm bringing the pictures out. I'm sounding the alarm. I'm like, no, because with me, I see a lot of stuff. I'm very observant. Believe it or not, it sounds like because I have like such long videos on YouTube, and all you see on YouTube is me talking. I am very, very quiet in person. I do a lot more observing than I ever would do talking, unless I truly trust that person, and I'll talk like to my mom or something. But other than that, like when it comes to my personal life, I am an observer. I watch things. I watch everything. And then so I'm slow to speak, believe it or not. So even like with me doing these videos that you'll see now, a lot of them come out of just great research, great passion, but I had to observe a lot. Like this video is coming out of me doing 10 years of just watching movements, watching stuff. And that's my nature, because I have gathering information for me to learn from. Like, okay, well, when I start to do my thing for my community, you know, this is what I need to avoid. This is what I need to do. This is what you know, needs to happen. So it was more so like me taking the time to really study before I put myself out there. And I'm in the place in my life where I'm not as fearful. I don't want to be so much in the background. And that took a lot of studying. You know, it took a lot. But yeah, you want to start to look at that kind of stuff, you know, and be aware of tactics to prevent real change in the Black community. Seriously, and be aware of individuals. Like every time they go to a motherfucking movement, it's always some drama. Somebody always dying. As soon as they come around, it's some drama pop up. I'm telling you, if somebody do that more than 3 times, even in one organization, your ass need to be putting them on lie detector tests, background checks. They need to be on a probationary period, and they need to be surveillanced by the organization that they joined. They need to be monitored for like 90 days, because they could be a motherfucking agent. Seriously. And don't play. Don't let nobody infiltrate your shit. Like if you got something going on, you know it's for Black Americans, and you know that you're really trying to take a stand, and you see a motherfucker coming around and starting some drama. Hold on, y'all, I gotta take this call. Yes, so, you know, these are the things that I just want to talk to you about. I also want to talk to you about leadership. I want to say, do not ever shy away from leadership as Black Americans. I always get confused now, because it's like this thing where the men in particular, they're saying they don't want to be a leader because I guess they are going to be targeted. They're going to be the one that stands out. They're going to get, somebody's going to come after them, as if they're not already on the motherfucking alphabet boys list or watched already. So to me, that's just such a ridiculous thing to say, because for one, you're not fooling the powers that be. They know who is influencing who out here. They got all type of data analytics. They got all type of fucking algorithms, all type of AIs on your ass. Everybody. They know everybody. They got your gematria. They got your spiritual marker, your spiritual sciences, your natal charts. They got all that shit. So they know who's the leader in this community and who's not, whether it's women or men. Okay? So never teach Black Americans to shriek from leadership. Don't nobody stand up. Don't organize. Say everybody is the leader. No, absolutely not. That is not the way we should go about that. What we should be telling Black American men and women is that everyone is the leader. Everyone is a leader. Okay, not that no one is the leader, because that subconsciously primes your mind for empowerment. When you say that everyone is a leader, that means everybody stand up. They can't kill us all. They can't come after all of y'all motherfuckers. That means that you're subconsciously primed for enlightenment and doing something for your goddamn self and for your community, for your family. But when you say no one is the leader, you all scared and shook, like, you know, that put fear in Black men on a subconscious level. Like, they think, somebody gonna come after me. The motherfuckers gonna come regardless. Okay, and they got gematria, natal charts, AI, data analytics, all types of shit. Are you kidding me? They know who the fuck you are. They know who I am. Why do y'all think? A lot of times people are like, why are you talking like that? My people's, some people, you know, some of my friends, why are you talking all crazy like that? You talk crazy on the phone. You talk radical. You talk too radical. They already been knew. I was that motherfucker since I was, man, if I was to tell y'all some of the stories of my life, I'd be like, damn, they already know who I am. It doesn't even matter. They gonna take me out. They gonna do whatever they gonna do. I don't give a shit. But I'm not about to just... I already played that role. I gotta figure for years I've been more shying away, quiet. I've been doing that shit for years, and it's like after a while, you still getting fucked with. You still getting surveillance. So you might as well be the motherfucker you was put on this planet to goddamn be. You might as well live your purpose. If you want to help lead this community, if you want to help Black Americans, if you want to help empower your people, you better do that shit, because they already know who the fuck you are anyways. Okay, so that's what you got to say, Black people. This goes for the Black women and the Black men and Black children. If everyone is the leader, they cannot stop you. They can't kill us all. So every Black person is the goddamn leader, all of you. It's like that scene from Life. Y'all remember that movie Life? And there's that white woman, she got pregnant by a Black man, right? And it was like, I guess they were like on some football, not football, baseball team. And they were going around town asking who the baby's pappy was. They kept saying, who's this baby pappy? And one Black man stood up and said, he the father. And then all the Black men stood up and said, they the father. They kept saying, I'm that baby's pappy. And it confused the white man who was trying to look for the one guy, because everyone was saying they the father. So he didn't know who to kill. He didn't know who to go after. It's the same thing with leadership. Leadership leads to action and self-accountability. Telling Black Americans that they should have no leaders is crazy, because you need structure and hierarchy to run a civilization. You need competent leaders. And telling Black Americans that they should have no leaders because the government gonna come after them, that's not a good enough excuse. Hell no, that ain't a good enough excuse. Because I just kept telling you, they got a list of motherfuckers that they've been watching. They got a list of people's motherfucking gematria in their natal charts. So they doing things by their gematria. They got to profile the motherfuckers through the AI, the data analytics, the voice chat groups, all that shit. It don't matter. You know, it is what it is. Like, I'm sure, I'm almost positive. I'm almost 100% positive that I'm definitely on some type of list. If they gonna do it, just shit. It is what it is. The new thing is to run psyops on the leaders. Like I was saying, the new thing is not to necessarily take a person out. It's to run psyops on them. It's to run psyops. So where, you know, when they speak up about, say they're being surveillance, say they're being gang stalked, say they're being drugged, say organizations coming after them, they're gonna look crazy. They're gonna appear crazy. So that's the new tactic, instead of just outright killing them. But if every Black American say they're the leader and every African say they're the leader, then they subconsciously look forward to building and taking their destiny in their own hands. So every Black American man should be saying at the same damn time, we are all the leaders. So now you got 1 billion Black melanated men on the planet, right? They come from different bloodlines, you come from different tribes, whatever. If y'all said y'all the leader, what do you think is gonna fucking happen? Nothing. Because you're already on a chopping block. So you might as well fight for your self-autonomy. And don't think your woman, the Black woman, can't see you struggling to get a foot in this system or building your own system. She can see it. I see it every damn day. But I also have occult knowledge of why this occurred in the first place, and how a lot of this is spiritual strongholds from what happened to the ancient symbols, and how what was ushered in as the age of Pisces was brought on by male secret societies, males trying to get a stronghold over the laws of electromagnetism to usher out the divine feminine, because we were under the age of the divine feminine prior to the age of Pisces, which was 2,000 years. We're just now moving back into the age of the divine feminine. So they thought they was going to hijack these star systems and even planets, and it all backfired. This is very occult information that I know maybe fly over your heads, but I can break this shit down. Who else does Rod Hayes? He gets into it a little bit about it. Not a little bit. He gets into it from the channeling aspect of it, because he channels. And so, like, when people be thinking people don't know what they're talking about, no, that shit is real. And we all from different school of thoughts, and we all saying the same thing, that this planet was hijacked. And we talk about the great matriarch, and we talk about how certain things happen on a spiritual and physical level to this Black woman. So this is it's deep. It's very deep, and this is what's hidden from Black people, because it's like, don't let them find that shit out. I'm just glad that I was chosen by the dark goddess. I was chosen by the primordial mothers to even get this information out. And I'm not the only person that's been chosen. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is I know for a fact that I'm one of them women that was chosen to get that message out, because that is where you break that bondage. We got to break these strongholds on this community, globally, for melanated people. You know? So that's why I don't really see the point in bashing the men or anything. Now, because I understand how to get out of the karma. I actually have the keys to get out. And we have been dealing with the descendants of the Sibyls and the oracles and the primordial mothers. So I already know what needs to be done so that melanated people are not subjugated on their own lands. So again, the moral of the story is don't shriek leadership. Embrace it. Everyone should embrace it. And also, study the occult and study pre-colonial melanated people's history so you can truly understand why I even got into the situation in the first place. The only reason why you're doing it is so that you can see what happened and what went wrong. It is not so you can be in denial, because I know this is another thing. Black people are vehemently against understanding how slavery started and who started it and all this stuff. It's like it gotta be Arabs and white men. And I'm like, ooh, you gotta come out of your bondage. Psychological bondage. And to do that, you're gonna have to study your own pre-colonial history before the white man for some damn Arabs. It's out there. It's all tied back to what happened to the great matriarch, the hijack of planet Saturn, the hijack of planet Earth. Okay? So get into those occult sciences, then study pre-colonial melanated people's history, and things will make more sense to you. You know, and I'm just tired of seeing the community in shambles and getting swindled by charlatans. It's really disconcerting. And, you know, I've followed some of these leaders myself. Most of them. And that's why, you know, there was a time but you couldn't get me to say anything bad about some of these people. I would defend them to no end. I'm talking about people I've been following for 10, 12 years and shit. But after a while, I just couldn't turn a blind eye. I'm like, I can't turn a blind eye to odd behavior anymore, or things that I know are not going to help Black Americans gain their self-autonomy. So I had to stop being blinded myself in these movements. You know, just be more aware and raise the standards for leaders in this community so you can stop getting swindled out of your damn money and take your destiny in your own hand. Be aware. Okay? Another thing that has messed the Black American community up is that they are very male identified. So they are looking for their liberation and blueprints to come from men. Now, if you study any type of melanated people's history, whether that's African history, American Indian history, whatever you identify as, both histories detail the overthrow of the great matriarch by the men who wanted to work with foreigners in the hope of global enterprise and more money from the slave trade, and the deals backfired. If you truly study how we got into this situation, everyone would second guess the way this community is set up. Everyone. Because our societies were always matriarchal for over 15,000 years, even in the primes of civilizations in Africa. You can see those matriarchal societies. Before the Arabs, I love bringing up, because Islam, as if that, as if Islam predates ATRs, whatever. Before the last 1,500 years, when the men try to enact this patriarchal system, they have been subjugated. Now, there's a lot of spiritual reasons for that bondage, and I can get into that in another conversation. I have tried to put some books out about it. As long as you try to keep suppressing the divine feminine, you will never gain liberation in that spiritual law. Now, again, study the origins of the original teachings of planet Saturn, not Kronos and all this bullshit about Satan, all that. No. Study the original Crone Mother Saturn. Study the original planets, you know, like we're talking about their original identities, and of course planet Earth. What was planet Earth originally? What was planet Saturn originally? Before all this fuckery, you know, this fuckery with these planets occurred. Okay. But in all honesty, Black Americans start to think more revolutionary in terms of self-governance and procuring resources for your food, your shelter, and water. Anyone not talking about that is questionable to an extent, because they're providing you with no plan to get out of this matrix, and that you time loop with the same shit you've been dealing with for 1,000 years. Okay? It's time to wean yourself off of the system by any means necessary, and only you can do it. Only you can raise your level of consciousness. The universe is mental. Only you can let go of the bondage of psychological slavery and see yourself free and motivated to fight for your human rights. Stop letting controlled opposition gatekeep your movements, okay? So I love you, and I'm going to talk to you later, okay? Now you guys be good.